Minasan konnichiwa, skushitoke yokoso. Today we are in Nagasaki to look at some churches, and this is exciting to me for two reasons. The first reason is I've never been to Nagasaki before, and the second reason is that I didn't know Japan had so many churches. Usually when you think of Japan, you think of temples and shrines. I had no idea there were churches here at all. But anyway, if you like videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. And let's get into it. So we're starting our day at the resting place of Sumitara Omura, who is really one of the most famous Christian people in Japan. He was a feudal lord and spent his last days here, and actually not long after he died, Christianity was banned in Japan in 1614. Sumitara Omura is famous for many reasons. Not only was he the first high-profile Christian in Japan, but he also opened trade in the Nagasaki Port to the Portuguese, which I found to be extremely fascinating. Unfortunately, his house is no longer here, but they've turned this area into a beautiful park, and it is honestly one of the most relaxing places I've ever been to in Japan. So let's go and have a look. One of my favorite things about this park is that there are various notice boards dotted around sharing information about Sumitara Omura's life, and he's an incredibly interesting person. This is one of my favorite notice boards because they actually have images on there as well. I'm a bit more of a visual learner, so I like to actually see things. So I find this to be incredibly informative. So this park is surrounded by residential houses, which is probably why it is so quiet and peaceful, but I absolutely love that. It's important to note that this area is quite spacious, and there are a lot of benches where you can sit down and just relax. I think my favorite is just over here, because you can see these two benches with a tree just towering over them. It's absolutely gorgeous and it feels really serene. So we're now in Nagasaki City, and it is absolutely beautiful here. It's definitely not like any other city I've been to, especially in Japan. We're currently walking up this cute little shopping district, and it's on quite a steep slope, so you have to be careful where you walk. But it's absolutely lovely here, the weather is amazing, and these shops next to me are absolutely adorable, and I can't wait to go and check them out. So we are now approaching our next church, which is Ora Cathedral. It was built in 1865, and it is the oldest Christian building that still exists in Japan today. It is breathtaking. It's a brilliant white color. It's on top of this beautiful hill, and it is maybe one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever seen. I cannot wait to take a closer look. So you can see behind me just how beautiful this cathedral is. It's definitely not something that you would expect to see in Japan, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's stunning, and I think the weather today complements the building even more. So you do have to pay an admission fee to enter, but part of that fee actually goes to the contribution of maintaining historical churches and things like that in Nagasaki. So I would say it's well worth the price. So you can't see it from here, but when you go up these stairs, apparently you can see a spectacular view. So I cannot wait to check that out. So we're right at the top, just by the entrance of the cathedral. And if you looked, not even down, I wanted to say down, but actually directly across, right in your eye line, you can see a really beautiful mountain with loads of buildings on it, and it's stunning. It really is. It doesn't even look real. It kind of looks like a model. That's how perfect it looks. It looks like somebody made it, but it's beautiful. Ooh, and there's a nice cool breeze as well. Lovely. Now that I'm up here, the church looks even more magnificent. I absolutely love the style of it. It's really beautiful. Interestingly enough, although we have quite a lot of churches in the UK, we don't have too many white ones. Typically they're just a standard old brick built building. They're still very beautiful, but I really don't get the chance to see many that are painted white. So this is a nice new treat for me. So right here we have this incredible, I think I'm gonna call it an engraving because it's not quite a picture and it's not quite a sculpture either. But basically, this is of Bishop Bernard Petitjean, and he became the Bishop of Nagasaki. I'm not sure if that was before or after this was made, but either way, this is absolutely stunning, and I had no idea Nagasaki ever had a bishop. I am honestly learning so much today, and I can't wait to tell anybody who's willing to listen all of the facts that I've learned. But this is incredible, and if you're not expecting it, it does kind of take your breath away pretty instantly. I have some kakuni manju here, and I have never had this before, so I'm really excited to try it. Here we go. Itadakimasu. It's really, really soft. I was so surprised. It's delicious. Oh, there's the middle part. I'm gonna try it on its own. That's so tender and soft. It literally melted in my mouth. Wow. So we are now at Nakamachi Catholic Church, and out the front you can see a very modern building. And I was gonna say, oh, this church is very modern looking, but actually when you turn in just here, you can see this beautiful church. And it's definitely a lot more traditional looking than the building that I originally saw, and it's really well hidden. I had no idea this was here until I turned this corner, but it is gorgeous, and we have this white colour again. There's something about it that just looks incredible, and I love the bell tower at the top as well. It's absolutely stunning. So if you just follow the path down here, they have some really interesting statues with a really interesting story that I would love to share with you. So let's go and check that out now. Next to me here, we have the statues of St. Thomas Nishi and the 15 martyrs. So of the 15 martyrs, 9 of them were Japanese, 4 of them were from Spain, and then there was 1 each from Italy, France and the Philippines. These martyrs were killed between 1633 and 1637 in truly horrible ways. There's a little plaque here that tells you all about it. I won't talk about it here because it is quite gruesome. So they died for their faith, and the one thing that immediately caught my attention is that they're all facing in the same direction. This to me is particularly fascinating because the usual structure of statues like this would just be to line them up neatly, but the fact that these are all strategically placed I found to be quite interesting. Now the reason for this is actually because they're all facing toward Europe, where Catholicism and Christianity are kind of the main faiths over there, and at the time that these people were killed they couldn't build a church in Japan, so they were looking towards Europe because that's where the home of their faith is. I found that so interesting, and I think this might be one of my favorite things that I've seen so far. So unfortunately we're not allowed to film in quite a lot of these churches, but I did go inside this one, and what blew me away was the structure of this church inside was exactly the same as the church I go to in London. So it was really weird to be in there because for a second I wasn't even sure what country I was in anymore. It was almost identical. The layout, I couldn't believe it. It was one of the first things I noticed, and it felt like I had been transported back to England. It's quite interesting because, like I said, the outside of our churches in the UK, although they are kind of this shape, you don't often see ones that are white. And I'm still a little bit in shock at the fact that Japan has churches. I spend so much of my time exploring temples and shrines because I love those too, but I never thought about churches until I visited Nagasaki. And now I think I'm going to be more aware and probably be a bit more on the lookout as well. So we are now at the site of the martyrdom of the 26 saints of Japan. So 20 of those were Japanese Christians and 6 of them were foreign missionaries. and they were executed simply because they were Christian. The Pope at the time heard all about this in Europe and decided to make these 26 martyrs saints. And right now we are here at the memorial to those 26 saints, and it is deeply, deeply moving.
これ長崎の踏絵の様子です。毎年
We are now at Nagasaki Port because we're going to be taking a ferry to Goto Islands. I'm a little bit nervous because I don't get on boats too often, but I'm also really excited to see what the islands look like. But it is a beautiful day here again in Nagasaki. We're really, really lucky to have such great weather and to be spending it on the ocean. The boats here are pretty big and the scenery is incredible. I know it's a port, so you're gonna get a good view of the ocean, but there are so many beautiful mountains behind me as well. I will never get sick of looking at mountains in Japan, ever. They're one of the most beautiful parts of Japan in my opinion. So let's go. We finally arrived and the ship was actually really nice. It kind of looked like the inside of an apartment. It was really modern, there was a TV there to keep you entertained, and the seats were really comfortable, so I was actually able to sleep for some of the journey too. But yeah, it was a pretty good experience and I'm glad I did it because, like I said, I haven't been on a boat in a long time and it's kind of a rare thing for me to do. The journey was about 1 hour 30 minutes, which is not bad, and it gives you enough time to relax and maybe have a bit of a nap. Right now we are on Kashiragashima Island, and it's a really small island, but the surroundings are absolutely stunning. On the way here it was really, really scenic. Every 2 minutes there was something to look at outside the window of the bus, so it was beautiful. So this island has a beautiful church here called Kashiragashima Church, and it was completed in 1919, but due to lack of funding they actually had to resource the materials to make it from the local area. An interesting fact is actually that almost all of the residents here, except for one house, are Catholic. So this would be their local church that they go to pray at, which I find to be incredibly fascinating. And here it is. So unfortunately we're not allowed to film inside of the church, and that's going to be the case with most of the churches, but we are allowed to show you around, so let's go and have a look. As is with most traditional churches, they have absolutely beautiful stained glass windows. One of the things that I've noticed is each church that we've been to has a completely different style of stained glass window. These ones are primary colours and they're very beautiful. One of the most interesting things about this structure is actually its surroundings. So you can see there are trees going really up high, and it seems like this church is almost at a low level compared to everything else, but it's actually not. We're on a bit of a hill here, but because the trees go so high up and there's a massive wall here, you'd be forgiven for thinking that we're on ground level, and we're not, which I think is really strange but interesting. You have to be very aware of your surroundings. So this church is built with Goto stone, which apparently it's good because it's harder for it to grow moss on, which I had no idea. So that's really crazy to me. I've never heard of that before. But this stone is very special because you can only get it in this area. So it really feels like this church belongs here. It's part of the nature here almost, because it's built by the materials that you can only find here. And I love that so much. I think that's really special. I don't know of many buildings that can say they're built from materials that are locally sourced, especially these days. A lot of things are imported. So I love that. I think it's amazing.
でここにほら今島が見えてますでしょ。この島からもそのね、教会の石材を切り出した島なんですね。
We are now at Elsagowa Church, and one of the things that I immediately noticed is the brickwork of this church. It's not white or a light colour like the others we've seen so far. The brick here is quite red, and this is actually not too different from the churches we have in the UK. Most of them will be built with this style, with red bricks or brown bricks. So yeah, to me this is fantastic. This is the first time I've seen a red brick church so far. This church was built in 1910, so it's actually just over 100 years old. But you wouldn't think that because it really looks well preserved. It looks like it could have been built maybe 10 years ago. That's how neat and fresh it looks. It's really been very well kept. Also, one of the important features here is the wooden doors right at the front. Again, this is very similar to what we have in the UK. I'm really surprised to see this because, as I've said before, in Japan you expect to see temples and shrines, but to see churches that aren't that different from what we have in the UK, that's really surprising to me, and I love it. It's fascinating, it's opened my mind, and I can't wait to see some more. So the red bricks for this church here are actually from Sasebo City, and the residents here helped carry them and build this church. So please bear in mind that each brick weighs about 3 kilograms, and women were carrying 8 bricks at a time. That's insanely heavy, and I think that's something that makes this church even more special and important, honestly. Another thing to mention is that this church has a fantastic view, like pretty much all of the other churches I've seen so far. It's right on a hill and the ocean is in front of us. It's magical, honestly. So let's look around and see what else we can find. So I love this right here. There's a little garden right by the side of the church. And again, this is something that we have at my church in England. We have like a flower bed right around the outside. It's a small touch that I think makes all the difference, because you know somebody has to come and care for this regularly, and it just adds a pop of colour, and it just kind of makes you feel more at home, I would say, because these are the style of plants that you could just grow in your own garden at home. So it's nice to see them here with the church. We're currently at Nagasaki Church, and it is so beautiful. It's right by the waterfront and you get an amazing view of it from the opposite side of the shore. I love this church. I think it's adorable. It was built in 1925, and you can tell because the architectural style really represents that. When I think of a small town church, this is definitely what comes to mind for me. I think it's the cutest thing ever, and to compare to the UK, I don't really see churches like this at all. This is made from wood, and like I've mentioned before, most churches in the UK are actually made of brick and stone. So this is really refreshing for me to see, but it's absolutely beautiful and quite small, but it feels welcoming as well. So let's have a look around, because the landscape of this church is particularly interesting. I love this. It's a little garden, and all of the flowers are beautiful. There are butterflies everywhere, and you have this incredible view right in front of you of a mountain and the waterfront. This is amazing. It's so stunning. This garden actually kind of reminds me of the gardens you see in the countryside in England. I love that it's not neat, it's just kind of nature growing together, and you have all these different colours here, and it looks incredible next to the white of the church. It's really impressive. I could stay here all day and enjoy this. It's beautiful. Just the nature around here is absolutely incredible. Oh my goodness, there's a little crab over there. It's very interesting that we saw a crab here today, because we learned recently that the crab is a very important symbol to Christianity with Francis Xavier, because at one point he lost his cross and a crab came out from the sea and handed him his cross back. So to actually see a crab here today outside of this church honestly feels like something out of a dream. It's really cool and such an important symbol, so it's so fitting that we saw one here today. Behind me you can see Wakamatsu Bridge, and before this was built, people used to have to go to school via boat. So the only way to get across was by boat. So this bridge has changed a lot of people's lives. The surroundings here are absolutely stunning. There's so many mountains, so many trees. The water is this incredible turquoise color. It's not quite blue, it's not quite green, but it's gorgeous. I've never seen the ocean this color before. It's incredible. You can see behind me that there is a church on this cliff here, and it's absolutely beautiful, but I think what makes it more interesting to look at is the fact that we're below it and it's above us, so it looks really, really magnificent. So that's it for today's video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I've loved my time here in Nagasaki, and I really should come again. The weather was amazing. I learned so many new things, saw so many incredible places. So yeah, this is definitely a must-see area of Japan. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Have you ever visited any of the places we've shown in our video today? Or would you like to? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!